Really bad hangover. We drove around and found the road west out of Austin. We passed through Dripping Springs, the home of Willie, but didn't see him. Stopped at a rest area near the entrance to the LBJ ranch. I got out and lay down on the grass. I was thinking about a new idea for death. I wanted the rains to come and pound me into the ground, dissolving me like fertilizer, and after about 2 days leaving only a greener patch of grass where I'd lain. I figured also maybe this process could be made possible by taking a pill called Insta-Decay, which would make your body dissolve really fast. I told Lloyd and we laughed and laughed. We stopped for breakfast. The sign said, Stonewall Cafe, LBJ Country, barbecue, certified chili. Inside were many pictures of LBJ and family signed by him and given to the owners. Went up to the man and began making noises about food. Breakfast. Then we looked at the clock. It was 4:45 in the afternoon. We had slept all day till about 4 p.m. Lloyd's coffee made him really wasted. He couldn't hold a cup steady. All of a sudden, I had to finish it for him. I was feeling good by now and ordered cream pie while he went out for a walk. I got the pie and tried to cut it, but it was hard and stale, just horribly old. I did take one bite and spit it out. It was like rubber. I paid the bill without saying a word because, as I told Lloyd later outside, I felt I might have flown off the handle and started raving. So we drove on and turned in to Luckenbach. There it was at last, the Holy Grail. The famous old wooden building covered with signs. There were many people strolling about, drinking, playing horseshoes. I went in and bought a beer in order to look around. The bartender was pretty busy as the cowboys were thick in there. I walked out and around the grounds some more with beer in hand, noted a little bust of Hondo Crouch on a stone pillar at the other end of the building. Also, many turkeys running around and in the trees, outhouse toilets, etc. Went back inside to the general store and was looking at an old scrapbook. Showed a picture of the bartender, Sheriff Marge Ottmer. She was pointing at April 1st on the calendar and looking mad. It said, while the rest of the world acts silly on April 1st, everyone in Luckenbach acts silly almost every day of the year, except on April 1st when they act very serious. Sat around the wood stove as people began leaving, but we stayed and had a great time, drinking very slowly at first and then getting back into it. By about 9:30, there were only 8 of us left sitting around, and they were Marge and a friend, a local blacksmith named Tim, Bill and Sandy Smallwood, Carol Reese, Lloyd and myself, and another old guy who left after Bill started playing guitar and singing. We got down to telling jokes and enjoying each other's company in the quiet Luckenbach night. Around midnight, we said our goodbyes. Everyone else left, and Lloyd and I retreated to the camper and ate some food before we passed out with some incredible dreams. Monday, March 12th. Got up mid-morning. The turkeys were squawking. Lloyd was outside already. The Lone Star truck was at the bar restocking. Otherwise, no one around. We took a last look and left, driving south through Sisterdale, stopping to mail a postcard, then down through Bern and into San Antonio. Went immediately to the Lone Star Brewery, and for $1 each, which included 2 glasses of beer each, we toured the public museums of stuffed animals from all over the world. Fish and birds and mounted heads, antlers, horns everywhere. Even the writer O. Henry's little house. It was great. We picked up some souvenirs in the Lone Star gift shop and went downtown. San Antonio turned out to be quite pretty and old-fashioned, unlike Houston or Austin. We ate in a nice deli and wandered along the canal, through downtown, below the street levels. Then toured the Alamo. Wow, what a shrine for Texas that is. It was so hushed and reverent in there. Drove west on Route 90, stopping for groceries for supper, which we ate near Hondo. Played pool for a few hours in Uvalde. Drove to a rest area at Brackettville for the night. Got up and made a hearty breakfast. Drove to Del Rio, where we took photos of us in front of the signs of cancer. We stopped in Langtree and visited the Judge Roy Bean Visitor Center and toured its cactus gardens and museums and got plenty of information and heard the phrase, law west of the Pecos, enough times to last forever. Went across the street for ice cream and bought plenty of postcards. Drove down a gravel road near the Rio Grande and parked for a while, and I wrote all my postcards, one to almost everyone. We drove west through Dryden, ate supper at a rest area before we hit Marathon, where we went into the only bar we could find and played 1 game of pool, then continued south, stopping for the night just north of the entrance to the Big Bend. March 14th, a day of beautiful scenery. We drove into Big Bend National Park, stopping for info and decisions. Chose the basin surrounded by Chisos Mountains and had breakfast at a rest area halfway down. We climbed about taking pictures, then drove all the way down and out, stopping at an old ranch, continuing past a mountain with old lava flow. Enjoyed the cacti and bluebonnet flowers. drove into Castleton. Then along the Rio Grande to the Santa Elena Canyon lookout, headed north on an old ranch road, unpaved and rough, probably washed out in many spots when it rains, but now all the riverbeds were bone dry. Left the park then and got gas at Steady Butte and saw a bar with a pool table outside. We tried to play, but the wind kept pushing the balls toward one end. It was no use, so we left after 2 beers. We visited the ghost town of Trilingua, where they probably started the annual chili cook-off thing. The souvenir shop man was an old grouch, but funny because his sign said, "I will answer questions for 50 cents each, otherwise they will be answered rudely, incorrectly, or not at all." And also a sign that had answers to the common questions, which I only saw after I started asking dumb questions. Drove west on 170 to Presidio. It was up and down along the Rio Grande. Stopped on the edge of the town of Presidio and ate a quick supper beside the road, then drove around looking for a bar to kill the evening. Got up and had breakfast immediately, bacon and eggs and bread and oranges. Lloyd changed American dollars to pesos and we went to the Mexican customs. We waited a long time for our turn, and it took a long time to convince the 3 guys that our truck was our legal property. Lloyd went in an office where the guy asked for $100. No! $5? So Lloyd gave him that, and another $10 for a bogus insurance fee, and then the other 2 stepped up to the typewriters commandingly, and one typed Lloyd's visa and insurance together on one paper, and the other guy did my visa for my passport. So we were going to get in. Then one uniformed guy outside looked in the truck and asked Lloyd for $5, which he gave him, getting a little exasperated, but we were in. Drove Highway 16 to Chihuahua without stopping, then on to Cataimac. There we parked and walked around talking to old Mennonites, asking for help and directions. We were looking for the route to Steinreich. Our parents were down here on a 3-year term working with old colony Mennonites, and we were eager to visit. Finally found someone who drew a map for us, and we drove another 40 miles to find their country place. It was exciting to find Dad, Mom, our brother Stephen, and Sister Anna Marie waiting for us. We hugged and talked all evening. It was just like old times, being at home on the Canadian prairies with Mom's good cooking and Dad's church talk and bread and jam every meal. Next day we played outside, got the tour of their home and area, and in the evening we rode along to town, to Cataimac for dinner with other Mennonites and missionaries. It was a big deal, and there was going to be lots of church talk and so on, so after the meal, Lloyd and I split and went looking for a bar. We drank Carta Blancas quietly until a local came in with a battery and wires to hand grips, which he held in each hand. He was selling shock treatment. I was freaked out but had to try it. It gave me a tingling feeling and got scary, and my muscles tightened up until I cried out to stop the surge. Weird entertainment. We met a fallen Menno named Frank, who told us of his life and crimes. Scary stuff, but he was getting drunk and harmless. It was time to go meet the parents. Had coffee yet with all the old Mennos before the long drive home. Next day, a big breakfast, and then we went off to visit a cheese factory in a nearby village. After a big Mennonite supper of Mum's homemade noodles with cream and farmer sausage, I asked Mum for a haircut. I wanted a punk look, and she reluctantly went along, cutting as I directed. I also shaved my face. Everybody was freaked out and liked it, especially my young sister, who gave me several hugs. They could see me. We celebrated with pie and ice cream and Dad's Saturday night slideshow. Sunday in Steinreich. The folks went to church. Lloyd drew the distant mountains and I wrote my diary. When they came back, we had lunch with soup and pie. I had 3 pieces of pumpkin pie and whipped cream. It was so good. Then, after Mom and Dad had a little nap and I washed the dishes, we climbed into their suburban 4x4 and headed across country to a distant range to do some climbing and sightseeing. What strange, beautiful forms. It was quiet and still amazing. We climbed and took many pictures on the rocks, and from the top we could see a Mexican village. In the evening, the folks went to church again. I played with the kids and had them rolling on the floor with laughter. Lloyd was now painting those distant mountains. He created a beautiful painting on a long canvas, which he gifted to the folks. We all had night lunch, and I had 3 more pieces of pumpkin pie and whipped cream. A beautiful Sunday with the family. Sat around and drew 2 pictures in my sketchbook, typed up a letter with carbon paper to make 3 copies to mail to my siblings, Lauren, Loretta, and Les. Did it just like Dad does. Later in the evening, we all played Yahtzee. Then we looked at some more slides of local scenes. It was a quiet day. Next day we had more visitors from up north. 4 Canadian prairie lads whom we knew and who'd been at Dad's Bible school dropped by. Mom fed us all watermelon and Rollkuchen, and we laughed and laughed. A local Mano family brought their daughter over to scope out the male influx. After a big breakfast next morning, the 4 lads left, heading for Durango. Lloyd painted, I wrote and drew and played games, and Greta came over for another visit, which was nice. Dad went to his Wednesday evening prayer meeting, and then we all planned tomorrow's adventure. Had breakfast and hit the road by 9:30. Stopped to get Dad's spare fixed, and then down to Katimak and west. Went higher and higher into the heavily wooded mountains, past lumber mills and logging operations. About 1 p.m. we got to the Basashishik Falls in the western Sierra Madres near Ocampo. First we ate lunch, and then we walked through the bushes along a rough path to the falls. Crossed over the rushing water on this crude log bridge to get to the top of the waterfalls. We were on a ledge above a deep canyon with straight cliffs rising all around. It was breathtakingly beautiful. The falls was over 1,000 feet straight down, one of the highest in the world. We looked for a trail to go down so we could look up at the falls. Had to cross the creek again on the rocks, and we all followed Lloyd. Down and down we climbed slowly. Halfway down, Dad and Mom and Anna Marie rested, while Lloyd, Steve, and I continued right to the bottom. Incredible. Then the long climb back up, and the hike to the car, and what a day. Amazing.